I'm Judge Deborah Archuleta. Thank you for hosting this important event tonight. My journey in the criminal justice system started when I was a teenager. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I'd had brain surgery because I was thrown into a wall by a violent boyfriend. After that, I decided to embark on my career of working to protect other victims of violent and serious crime. I went to work as a legal secretary. I typed my way through Fullerton College and the University of California, Irvine, where I earned a degree in economics. In 1989, I joined the district attorney's office as a law clerk, working on a very horrible murder of a child. In 1991, I passed the bar on the first attempt, and I spent 26 glorious years serving you, the public, as a proud member of the district attorney's office. In 2016, I ran and became a Superior Court judge, where I have proudly served for the last 7 years, 3.5 years in the criminal courts, and for the last 3.5 years serving in the Children's Dependency Court, the foster care court, ground zero of everything that's gone on and wrong with Los Angeles in the last 3.5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not safer now than we were 3 years ago when we elected the district attorney, the incumbent. And I'm here tonight to tell you that when I am elected, I will impose strikes. I will be imposing gun enhancements. I will be prosecuting quality of life, low-level misdemeanors. I will be reversing George Gascon's blanket policies on day one of my election. I will be having deputy district attorneys go back to parole board hearings like I did over 150 times. We are going to take back the streets of LA County, and it starts here tonight with your vote on March the 5th, 2024. And I just have to pitch my website is judgeda4da.com, and we're very humbled that you are here to hear this important debate tonight, so thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Right down the line.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Chemerinsky, and I'm running for District Attorney of Los Angeles. Thank you to our hosts so much for putting this together, and to you all for being here tonight. This is an incredibly important election. There's nothing more important than our safety and the safety of our families. And that's one thing that's at stake in the election of a new district attorney. I've spent the last 9.5 years as a federal prosecutor, as an assistant United States attorney in Los Angeles. I focused almost exclusively on violent crime cases. I rose up in the violent and organized crime section of the United States Attorney's Office to be a deputy chief and then chief of the violent and organized crime section of the United States Attorney's Office. In my role as chief, I oversaw all violent crime prosecutions for the federal government, not just for LA County, but for LA County and 6 other counties, for a population of 19 million people total. I worked successfully and partnered with pretty much every law enforcement agency in the county. I'm proud of those partnerships. For 7 years, I also led the federal robbery program and really specialized in smash and grab robbery cases and armed robbery cases, a problem that I think is really plaguing our communities and really on so many people's minds right now. I gave up that job at the U.S. Attorney's Office to run full-time for district attorney. I launched this campaign in mid-September. I'm really looking forward to the discussion tonight. I'm the only candidate so far endorsed by a major business group. I've been endorsed by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. And I think that speaks to the partnership that I'd have as district attorney with the business community. I think it's important that the district attorney's office have accountability to the business community and ongoing dialogue with the business community. That's the type of leader I would be. And again, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me. I spent almost 18 years in the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office as a prosecutor. I deal with abused, neglected, and murdered children on a daily basis, fighting for justice for them. Before that, I spent 7 years in the United States Army, so I have served my country and I'm serving my community. I spent my childhood here in the San Fernando Valley. I also went to California State University, Northridge. My wife works as a deputy sheriff in the Santa Clarita Valley, and I'm raising my 2 children there in Santa Clarita. And I've also worked over a decade in the Antelope Valley. Your valley is important to me. We have so many home burglaries going on now in the San Fernando Valley, and many times we don't have individuals doing anything about that at all. We have crimes in the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley. Both Palmdale, Lancaster, and Santa Clarita voted no confidence in our sitting district attorney because he wasn't fighting for all of you and making sure that you all received justice and people were safe in their homes. I want you all to think about something. People are scared to walk out to their car at night. They're scared to pump gas. They're scared to wear a watch or wear jewelry. They're scared to walk their children to school. They're scared in their home that somebody's going to come burglarize their home. This isn't right. It's not fair. It isn't fair. We need a district attorney who's going to stand up and fight for all of you and make sure people who are committing crimes are held accountable and responsible for their crimes. I was the first deputy DA to stand forward and fight against George Gascon, and I've been doing it for a long time. I'm here to tell you I'm going to fight for victims, survivors, and for surviving family members. I'm going to make sure that all of you are safe in your homes and in your schools. I'm Jonathan Atami, and I'm running for District Attorney of Los Angeles County, and I'm running for you.
Thank you. Mr. Hockman.
Thank you very much, Frank, and thank you very much for being here. My name is Nathan Hockman, and I am running for District Attorney of Los Angeles County. As I go around this entire county and I talk to people from the entire political spectrum, from demographic perspectives, from the geographic perspectives, there's one refrain that I hear over and over, and that is enough is enough. We are tired of being afraid. We are tired of being afraid for our children going out at night, our parents going out at night, going into a park, going into a subway. The crime rates are not just our perception, though 2/3 of Los Angelenos recently polled say they feel less safe today than they did when George Gascon became our district attorney 3 years ago. And all the statistics show violent and serious crime and property crimes are up every single year that George Gascon has been our district attorney. And where is George Gascon? By the way, George Gascon was at a candidate forum last night, sitting right here next to me. And after I dissected and eviscerated the failures of his leadership, he ain't showing up tonight. There's only so much he can deal with about the fact that he has failed, but is it a shock that he failed? He lacks any experience. Literally, he's never prosecuted or defended a single criminal case. I have 34 years as a prosecutor, a U.S. Assistant Attorney General nominated by a president and unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate. I have actually gone ahead and been the president of the LA City Ethics Commission, the co-founder of the LA Sheriff's Foundation, and a defense counsel. So I bring that 34 years of experience against George Gascon's 0 years of experience. And not only do I have that experience, I have the leadership experience of also running 2 major international law firms' government investigations practices. And then I have endorsements. Former DA Steve Cooley, who's either hired or worked with virtually everybody here, has chosen me as the person who could lead the district attorney's office with that criminal justice experience, with that leadership experience. And Steve Cooley has been joined by 5 LA U.S. attorneys. My name is Nathan Hockman. If you want to find someone who can hold criminals accountable, bring safety back to our community, and restore the district attorney's office to the prominence it once held, please vote for me.
Hello. All right, thank you for having me here. My name is Dan Kapelovitz. I'm the only one at this table who is a criminal defense attorney. I'm the only one here who defends indigent defendants. I'm appointed by the courts, and also I'm the only one who defends victims who's appointed by the courts to be not further victimized by the DA's office. I'm also an animal rights attorney, and I agree, where is Gascon? And what's really strange is San Fernando, people are not treated the same in San Fernando as they are in Compton, as they are in Airport. When I'm DA, we're going to treat everyone equally. I don't think Gascon's ever even been to the San Fernando courthouse, because that courthouse, the laws, it's bizarro land, let me tell you that. Anyway, so if you're into preventing crime in the first place by getting to the root causes instead of just throwing people into prison afterwards, if you're into treating people equally and not based on their race or gender, if you're into ending mass incarceration and not throwing people's lives away, then I'm the guy. And if you're not, Hatami's right here, your guy. Woo!
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Lloyd Bobcat Masson. I'm a cold case prosecutor with the largest county in the United States. And for many years now, I've been bringing hope back to families that had given up a long, long time ago. I jumped into this race because I didn't hear anybody saying what I wanted to hear as an LA County resident. And that's this. As a DA, I will tell criminals directly to their face that playtime is over. I want to drop the hammer on all property-related offenses, robbery, and also hate crimes. My main thing is that I'm a primary person that's focused on public safety first, politics last. I'm the only candidate up here that doesn't have any affiliation with any political party whatsoever. And as a fourth-generation Angelino, I love this city, and I love the counties like this, the different cities that make up the county, and I love it. And with that, I want to get this place ready for the Olympics in 2028. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. As I stand here and look at this crowd, I don't see fear. I see courage. Yes, give yourselves a round of applause. I don't see the despair that we hear so much about. I see hope. And I know that this is a special crowd. You're here tonight because you want change. You want change for the better, and you deserve it. And you're trying to figure out who amongst the men and women at this table give us the best opportunity for change. Well, I've been a deputy district attorney for 25 years. I've been in the trenches for 25 years fighting the good fight. There are over 50 men in state prison who will bed down tonight, killers, whose the last face they saw when they walked out of the courtroom was mine. That's what I've been doing for you for a quarter of a century. But today we're at an inflection point, a real crossroads. Do we continue down the path that George Gascon has set us on, where there are people in our community who are afraid, and for good reason, where crime is rising, where people are afraid even behind the locked doors of their own homes? Or do we change direction toward a better future for all of us? And who amongst us at this table gives us the best chance for that change? I submit to you that my platform of running as a person who will be smart on crime, don't let them bait you into the tough on crime language. That's been politicized. We're going to be smart on crime. That means people who pose a danger to the community are going to be dealt with appropriately, meaning they're going to be sequestered from society until they prove that they've been rehabilitated and have earned the right, have put in the work to rejoin us. And when they're ready to rejoin us, we're going to give them an on-ramp back into society. And then for the other people who mess up, they're just like you and me and the people in this room who mess up from time to time, they've got to be checked too, but not in a way that upends their lives and makes it impossible for them to get jobs or education or housing. We've got to be smart on crime. I implore those of you who haven't made up your minds already, apparently some of you have, to check out my website, McKinney4LA.com, and follow me on social media at John McKinney_. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Milton. I am by far the most experienced candidate for this election. I've been a lawyer for 45 years. I've tried the most difficult cases you can try in any jurisdiction, state or federal, in this entire country. I have both criminal and civil experience. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I will always be open with you. I will always be transparent. I am the only Republican in this race, and I won't change that just to get more votes. I am a serious candidate. I was a judge for 24 years. I was a prosecutor for 12 years. I was able to achieve the death penalty on 2 cases as a prosecutor. I sentenced a man to death. I'm very serious when it comes to public protection and enforcing the laws of the state of California. Even if I don't like that law, I will enforce that law, no matter what it is. If you're a candidate who lets your personal convictions get in the way of you being able to carry out the will of the state of people of the state of California, you should not be the district attorney. I adhere strictly to the law, but I am fair-minded. I was born in Pasadena. My parents moved to Indiana when I was an infant. I was raised in a Judeo-Christian family. We were patriotic. We occupied all the branches of the government. My dad was a Marine. My brother was a Marine. I intended to join the Marine Corps until my oldest brother got hit in Vietnam. I then joined the reserves for 6 years. After my return from active duty, I began working in the factories of Eli Lilly in Indianapolis and going to school at night. I moved to California to better position myself for educational purposes. I am responsible and accountable. I will not be unfair to anyone. You can count on me for fairness, reasonableness, to being just. In Indiana, in the 60s and 70s, our country was racially tense. I suffered those indignities from time to time, but my Judeo-Christian upbringing, together with those indignities, made me the man that I am, a strong man, a fair man, but one who is sensitive to injustices. And if you go to my website, miltonforda.com, you will see that the #1 point on my platform is hate crimes. I will not suffer injustices. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Mitchell.
Good evening. My name is Craig Mitchell. I have taken a leave of absence from the Superior Court, where I have served as a felony trial court judge for the last 18 and a half years. There is no one else on this podium who has served in that capacity. And you've listened tonight talking of people touting their experience. My experience is a little different. Bookending both my 11 years as a prosecutor and my 18 and a half years as a Superior Court judge. I began my professional career teaching high school, 17 years in South Los Angeles. Why is that important? Because I understood at a ground level what is necessary to take young people in difficult communities and get them into good schools and lead law-abiding lives. No one else has that experience. What have I done for the last 13 years? Some of you may have seen the documentary Skid Row Marathon. 13 years ago, I founded the Skid Row Running Club, a program to help people who are homeless and suffer from addiction move into long-term sobriety, go back to school, get their life back on track. It's important that our next DA understands the community that needs to be restored. I will lastly say, this afternoon, I had the benefit of watching the early news. And I think many of you understand this past weekend, we had a serial killer, 3 serial killers on the loose in South Los Angeles. In the course of 12 hours, they killed 4 people. These were all gang-related killings. Under the current district attorney, he has made it his policy not to allege a gang enhancement. That would be a travesty given what happened this past weekend, and it will not happen on my watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Maria Ramirez, and I am a lifelong Los Angeles County resident like all of you. I grew up in Boyle Heights, an area that was riddled with gang violence when I was growing up there. My parents immigrated here to the United States from Mexico to build a better life for our family, and we had to fight every day to stay safe. And it is with that background that I decided to join the district attorney's office because I saw the suffering that was happening in my neighborhood, and the victims of crime in my neighborhood did not have a voice. And I wanted to be that voice for them in the district attorney's office. I have been in the district attorney's office now for 33 years. And I am very proud of my career in the district attorney's office and have loved every single minute of it until 3 years ago. I am the only candidate here who has served you both as a trial attorney prosecuting the most violent gang crimes in our neighborhoods, and the only candidate that has actually served in top management under 3 elected district attorneys, Steve Cooley, Jackie Lacey, and yes, for 8 months, I served on the management staff of George Gascon. I tried to fight for you during those 8 months to make sure that those directives that he issued were rolled back or edited or fixed, but it was a failure because he would not listen. The last 3 years have been a failure in leadership in our district attorney's office, and that is why this election is important. It is important to all of us in the district attorney's office, and it is important to you and your family so that they may be safe. And I can make things a little easier for you. I know this is a complicated race because there are 12 people running to be district attorney. Let me narrow it down for you today. It has to be one of the district attorneys who are now working and have been working and have never left the district attorney's office, who have fought for you for all of these years. So that takes it down to 4 candidates that you should look at. Because we have the heart and soul of our office, we know what we need and we know what we have to do. However, I have great respect for Eric, Jonathan, and John, but I am the only one that will know how to right this ship on day one. I know what it takes to manage an office of our size. I was the director over Bureau of Specialized Prosecution. As director, I supervised Eric, Jonathan, and John. And so I offer that to you. My experience and my knowledge and my connection to our communities. I know what we need. I know what we need to get our office back on track to keeping our community safe. And I would really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Maria and I agree on one point. It should be an actual deputy district attorney who leads this office because it's going to require a deputy district attorney to know how to right the ship. First of all, Frank, thank you so much for moderating tonight. Very much appreciate it. You know, the San Fernando Valley is not new to me. I was a gang prosecutor here for many years. In fact, as I was driving here, I noticed a lot of different murder sites that I had to prosecute just south of here. I prosecuted gangs like Bryant Street, Blythe Street, MS-13, actually took them down. So this is not a new area for me. But what you need right now is a district attorney who's actually going to lead the entire county of Los Angeles. I represent a new generation of prosecutors. There's a reason why the Deputy District Attorney Association, the association that actually represents all the line prosecutors in our office, endorsed me. And that is because they recognize that I have a skill set that is unique from all of these people on the stage. I have the prosecutorial experience. As you heard, I've done a lot of gang cases. I also prosecuted the murder of an LAPD officer who was murdered not just about 20 minutes east of here. I've actually done some of the most complicated gang takedowns that our county has ever seen. but I also have the political experience and the policy experience to lead this office. For 10 years, I was the vice president of our association, and I've advocated in terms of public safety. I saw where things were going. I saw where the trend was going, and we worked together as an office to try to reverse some of that. Let me tell you something else that is unique. No one else has a plan on what to do after George Gascon is gone. I have a plan that involves 3 parts. First of all, a violence reduction division. That is a division that will target the most violent offenders in the county. We are going to focus our intelligence and our resources on those individuals. We are going to be able to reduce levels of violence in a tremendous way by doing such a thing. The other thing that needs to be done that is sorely lacking in Los Angeles, and in fact has been lacking for a couple decades, is on the issue of mental health. I'm going to advocate for 3,500 beds in a lockdown facility so that people can actually get the treatment that they need without endangering the community. Because right now what happens is these people are brought back into the community where they're receiving mental treatment, and they're killing people. They're committing other acts of violence. That's not a solution. We need to build up our infrastructure for mental health. And the third is on the issue of homelessness. Right now, the district attorney's office does not have a plan on how to deal with homelessness. We don't even engage on this issue. So what I'm going to do is expand a model that was used by the Redondo Beach City Attorney's Office to create homeless courts throughout this entire county for nonviolent offenders, basically making sure that they get the treatment that they need and basic services that they need. We are going to prosecute quality of life crimes that the homeless commit, but we're also going to make sure that they get the services that they need so that they do not remain in our county jails or state prisons. This is the plan for the future, and together we can make Los Angeles safer and more equitable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. It is to be noted the incumbent is not present. I personally asked him to come to this forum last week when I saw him, and it is to be noted he is not present. We'll leave it up to the members of the judiciary here to announce any sanctions that might be appropriate. Right now, we're very fortunate to have with us for the official welcome now the council member of the City of Angels who represents this part of our great city. Please welcome, for the official welcome now, the Honorable Council Member John Lee.
Well, welcome everybody. If you live in my district, hello. If you are visiting our district, welcome to the safest district in the city of Los Angeles. I, like you, am looking towards a lively discussion today for our next DA. Like you, I'm trying to hear what the vision is that they have for the safety of all of its residents. But as your council member, I'm looking for a partner that will not only help keep Council District 12 remain the safest place in the city of Los Angeles, but to make sure that we are ensuring the safety of all the residents of Los Angeles County. So thank you so much. Thank you to the United Chambers of Commerce for being here, for putting this on. Thank you to Shepherd for always opening their doors to our community. Thank you to the most unique voice in all of radio, Mr. Frank Motek, for moderating this. But thank you to all of you. Thank you to everyone here in the audience and watching today. Thank you for caring enough about your city, about your county, to be here tonight. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Councilman Lee, and congratulations on your recent honors from the Los Angeles Business Federation and for standing with the business community here. I've been provided some questions deemed most relevant to the business and residential community here in this area, which I'll be presenting on behalf of United Chambers of Commerce. And let me start with this one to the candidates, and I'm going to surprise you with who we're going to start with here just to make it interesting. What will be the highest priority you will establish to make Los Angeles the safest county in the United States? And what will you do to make that happen? Judge Milton.
Thanks a lot, Frank. You know, October 7th, what's that remind you of? It's what prompted me to put number 1 on my platform, hate crimes. In my view, I want to make this unmistakably clear. I support Israel's right to use self-defense and to pursue its attackers until they are no longer a threat. No one should be attacked or become a victim of crime because of his or her religion, gender, race. This is extremely important to me. This is a degradation to society to have this happen. And the enhancements that deal with hate crimes, any type of a crime, if you can demonstrate that that crime was motivated by one of those classifications, race, gender, you should get an added 3-year sentence on it. But you don't in Los Angeles County because George Gascon has ordered the deputies not to file those enhancements. Recidivists, recidivists, and George Gascon does not want them to return to prison. He will not let his deputies file those prior convictions. You want to tell me that if an individual is released from prison, that he ought to be able to walk out, commit another crime, and not be charged with those enhancements? I see the stop sign there, so I've got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Another member of the judiciary is with us. Judge Art Shaletta, the question for you, what will be your highest priority to establish, to make LA the safest county in the U.S., and what will you do to make that happen?
I will be reducing violent crime. I will be imposing enhancements, strikes, guns, gangs, hate. Thank you. I will be asking for bail in all appropriate cases, whether it's low-level misdemeanor nonviolent offenses or violent and serious offenses. Juveniles that commit serious and violent crimes, juveniles that are being used as pawns in this organized theft rings. If you're going to do the adult crime, you're going to do the adult time. We've got to stop the revolving door. We must hold people accountable, starting with bail all the way through parole board hearings. I've spent 35 years in a courtroom. I know the process from beginning to end. The priority has to make all of us feel safer. I will also be imposing hate crime enhancements. If you look at my website, my daughter and I got a teacher fired in La Cañada schools for making anti-Semitic comments. My husband is Jewish, and I will not tolerate hate against gay people, against people of color, against people with a certain religious or ethnic orientation. We can no longer tolerate hate. It is leading to the breakdown of our society. People that are using drugs are going to be forced into treatment. People that are selling drugs are going to be going to jail or prison. And mentally ill people will need to be forced into treatment. It is inhumane to let our fellow humanity live under tarps and tents. Those are my priorities, along with reversing all of the horrible policy directives that Gascon issued on his first day of his tenure in the office. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Chemerinsky, let's go down the line here now.
Thank you. My number one day one priority is to restore a sense of partnership with law enforcement. I think the reality right now is the public has lost confidence in our current district attorney, and law enforcement has lost confidence in our current district attorney. A strong partnership between law enforcement and the DA's office is extremely important. As a federal prosecutor, as chief of the Violent and Organized Crime section, I saw this loss of confidence in our current district attorney. What happened over the last few years was that more and more local law enforcement agencies would try to bring me their cases at the United States Attorney's Office. And I'd have the same conversation with them over and over again. Why are we seeing this case? What's wrong at the DA's office? And I get the same response over and over again. Law enforcement simply did not have a trusted partner at the DA's office. There was so much chaos and dysfunction at the DA's office, really getting in the way of important work from getting done. So on day one, my number one priority to restore public safety is rebuilding a sense of partnership between the DA's office and law enforcement.
Thank you. Mr. Atami, what will be the highest priority you will establish to make LA the safest county in the U.S., and what will you do to make that happen, sir?
Number one priority is public safety, and the first thing I'll do day one is revoke every policy George Gascon has implemented and go back to actually prosecuting crime. We need to go back to doing the job of the district attorney. And that means if you are committing crimes, we need to make sure that people are held accountable and responsible for those crimes. We need to make sure that the public is safe. We need to make sure they're fighting for justice for the victim, so the victim gets justice. We need to make sure that that person who did something wrong, there is some punishment as a result. If we can rehabilitate, we're going to try to do that, but we should never sacrifice the safety of our public as a result of doing that. Most people don't know when George Gascon took office on day one, December 7th, 2020, he sent us an email. That's how he told us that we weren't allowed to prosecute numerous misdemeanors: resisting arrest, disturbing the peace, public drunkenness, solicitation for prostitution, indecent exposure, criminal threats. He said we weren't allowed to charge the gun violence allegation. We weren't allowed to charge the gang allegation. We weren't allowed to charge the hate crime allegation. He said if you intentionally tortured and murdered a child, we couldn't charge that special circumstance. He said if you assassinated a police officer, we couldn't charge that special circumstance. He said if you broke a child's arm or fractured a child's rib, we couldn't charge the great bodily injury allegation. He sent all those directives to all of us, didn't collaborate with any prosecutors. So on day one, I will revoke his policies. We will go back to doing the job of the district attorney. Also, Frank, how I'm going to go about doing that? I've been endorsed by 14 police officer associations, the most of any challenger, including the LAPD Command Officers Association. My wife is a 16-year veteran of the LA County Sheriff's Department. I have 2 children here in this audience. We will work together with police and law enforcement and collaborate with them and join together to stop all these home burglaries, to stop smash and grab burglaries, to stop organized retail theft. We will work together to do that, to deal with hate crimes and to deal with the thefts that are in this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hochman.
What George Gascon's 9 special directives on his first day in office did, the most pro-criminal special directives in LA County DA's history, is ignite a spiral of lawlessness. Now, a spiral starts small. It starts with one person going into a CVS, stealing just under $950 and walking out, not running out, because they know that Gascon won't prosecute them. That leads to 2 people running into a Walgreens, also stealing $950. How about 10 people going into a 7-Eleven? We saw 100 people going into another 7-Eleven with a flash mob. That spiral of lawlessness keeps building. Then you have your smash and grab robberies, your follow home robberies. You have your violent crime going up every single year in George Gascon's reign. And you have George Gascon sitting back on his couch, on his mighty throne, looking out and saying, I know more than everyone else. Well, George Gascon lost the faith of his prosecutors, 98% of which supported his recall. He lost the faith of law enforcement because he'd rather prosecute law enforcement than partner with them. And most importantly, he lost the faith of you, the public, victims. I will restore the sense of confidence, trust, and vitality with those 900 prosecutors. I will bring back, based on my work with the LA Sheriff's Foundation, the sense of partnership with law enforcement, and I will work to make victims and the public the priority, not criminals.
Thank you very much. Right down the line.
All right, thank you. I'm going to say some things tonight that you're probably not going to believe. They may blow your mind, but they're true, and no one is going to be able to tell you they aren't true. So just hear me out. First of all, we are safer now than we were 3 years ago. Violent crime is down. Rapes and murders are down. Theft offenses are up. But I'd rather have more theft offenses than more rapes and murders. I believe we all would. And the reason, and also this is the safest district in the ever, according to the honorable councilman. Is Gascon doing something right? No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. And here's what's going on. He has these directives. Read them. I don't know if any of you all read them. Read them. They're actually well thought out. They're supported by the science, but he hasn't implemented them. That's the thing. His line deputies refuse to implement his directives. They've all gone rogue. We don't know whether his directives would work or not because they've never been implemented. They do allege enhancements. They do seek high bail. I'm in court every day. I'm the only one who's in court all over this county. I actually see what's going on. George Gascon, I don't think has ever stepped foot in a courtroom. And I know what's going on, all right? And the reason that theft crimes are going up is because the fearmongers, the mass incarcerators, have misled everybody saying, oh, you go into a store and steal stuff, nothing's gonna happen to you. Shh. Let me tell you, I get these cases all the time. If you go into a Nordstrom's and take a bunch of stuff and the police arrest you, you're going to get charged with a crime. And it's a myth that you don't. So of course people are going to stores stealing stuff because they're told they can get away with it, but that is a lie. Thank you. Hi, Tommy.
All right, folks, go right ahead.
My primary priority is healing, both of the DA's office, a relationship with law enforcement, and the county. The way I'd go about that, heal the office, it's vitally important. They've been suffering under Gascon for many years now. The first thing I would do is I'd recognize those individuals that were brave enough to stand up to him while he was in office. Many of them are up here today because they put their careers on the line, and that needs to be recognized. But the second thing I'd do is I would talk with senior leaders, both in line operations and special units, and ask them how is it that we best heal this office so that we can bring it back to a position of #1 in the nation so that it's not second to anybody. It's #1, and SDNY, Manhattan's DA's office, would have nothing on them. That's the first thing. Secondarily, the healing that needs to be done between law enforcement partners is vitally important also. Gascon has completely ruined the relationship with his justice partners. As the only candidate up here that's embedded with the law enforcement unit currently, I know how to deal with justice partners, and we need to heal that relationship so that LASO, LAPD, and all the local agencies know that they can count on us to be fair and to also hold the line where it needs to be held. Thirdly is the county. The county has been through a lot in the last few years. And when we hear things like saying that crime is down, that's not true. Property crime is up, and property crime does have victims too, and those things hurt also. On that vein though, we need somebody that can unite the county. There's so many different cities that comprise the county in its entirety, and I'm telling you that I'm the candidate to do that because Bobcat has a unique character to be able to bring people together and say, hey, we need to go forward and we need to get this place ready for the Olympics with the clear 4-year plan that I have going from year 1 all the way to year 4, which culminates with it showing up, the game showing up in 2028 so that it's safe here. Because if we don't clean this place up now, you guys are going to get a bunch of French tourists. They're going to be stuck here because their cars are going to be stolen. Thank you.
Thank you. And for John McKinney, what will be the highest priority you will establish to make LA the safest county in the U.S., which the residents and business leaders in this room insist on? And what will you do to make that happen, sir?
All right, thank you. Bobcat really cares about the Olympics, doesn't he? It's going to get LA right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to envision a day in December when the new district attorney is sworn in. I'm going to take that oath to uphold your laws and all of your laws the way you passed them. And then I'm going to drop my hand and you're going to hear the sound of shredding going on all over the Hall of Justice. And that shredding will be all of what's left of George Gascon's policies that he implemented on his first day in office. We're going to get back to doing the job the way prosecutors are supposed to do the job. We are advocates on behalf of the people of the state of California. We are advocates on behalf of victims. We deal in the truth and evidence. We file cases based on the truth of what can be proven. If a gun is used, it will be alleged. If a significant injury is inflicted, it will be alleged. And my prosecutors will be uncuffed and ungagged and supported, even if they have to take on the very judges who are, in some cases, doing some very strange things in our courtrooms across LA County. That's right. This is bigger than just George Gascon. We got 2 DA employees representing us up in Sacramento. I'm calling them home. I've got to get new people up there to fight for the changes in the law that we need. That's right. As soon as my right hand drops, there are going to be prosecutors headed off to parole hearings to represent victims at those hearings. So I represent real change, meaningful change, and under my leadership, fairness and accountability will not be considered mutually exclusive. They will go hand in hand. That's the kind of leader I'll be starting on day one. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Mitchell.
As I listen to the question, I'm not comfortable with the premise. What is the number one thing you would do? There is so much wrong with the district attorney's office and the criminal justice system in Los Angeles today that if we focus on one thing alone, it is not going to be fixed. I have listened to my fellow candidates talk about going to parole hearings, filing all enhancements, shredding Gascon's policy directives, reestablishing a working relationship with law enforcement. There are so many things that need to be done to get us back on the right track. And I am committing myself to embrace the entirety of that agenda. Let me just give you a couple of examples of things. In my courtroom, about 4 months ago, I had an individual come in. He was trafficking 20 kilos of methamphetamine. What was the offer extended by the district attorneys to that major drug trafficker? 3 days in jail. 3 weeks after George Gascon took office, I had another gentleman come into my court. He had been stabbed 13 times. He was simply waiting for the bus, minding his own business. He said, Judge Mitchell, why is this person receiving so little time? Because George Gascon will not charge great bodily injury. He charges assault rather than attempted murder, and he did not charge the use of a deadly weapon. I could go on and on and on. This is what I have witnessed over the last 3 years. I did not plan on being here 3 years ago when we had sanity in the district attorney's office. I am compelled to run based on what I have seen. And if you value the vantage point that I have from the bench and the vantage point that I have on Skid Row, please consider supporting my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think that the priority for any candidate worthy of the job of district attorney has to be public safety and implementing policies that actually follow the law. What a novel concept that is, but that is not happening right now. But what I want to talk about is another priority. Everybody talked about public safety and the directives, and we all know what direction we need to go with that. However, there is something happening within the district attorney's office that is not allowing us to give you the best service that we can. And that is that we are on a daily basis losing very qualified individuals, district attorneys, support staff that are leaving us for other departments, that are leaving us for other counties, that are leaving us and retiring early because they do not want to work with George Gascon. We used to be almost 1,200 DA strong in our office. We are now under 800 deputy district attorneys. And that is important because why? How can we ensure your public safety when we can barely manage to support our court operations and our special divisions? We cannot do it. We used to get 1,000 applications to be deputy district attorney in our office. We were all very proud of that. The last go around, they got 100 applications. We cannot backfill fast enough. And that is important. And you need to know this because we cannot effectively keep you safe if we do not have the necessary employees to run the office. And that is one priority that I promise you I will be on from day one.
Thank you very much. Sir.
So I'm going to differ with Judge Mitchell on this one. I actually think it's a very good question, Frank, to narrow it to one issue. And the reason is because what we need are concrete solutions. Everyone's going to come up here and tell you they're going to enforce the law. Everyone here is going to tell you that they're going to file enhancements and things like that. But let me give you an actual concrete solution in terms of how we're going to do this job. I'm going to create a violence reduction division. I spoke about this at the beginning. And what that is, it will be a division that will be housed partially in the Bureau of Investigation. The Bureau of Investigation is the arm of the DA's office that's the law enforcement arm. It's the investigative arm. We're going to get information from around the county from various law enforcement agencies, all of them different from each other, gather that information, figure out who are the drivers of crime. And why is that important? Because most crime is actually committed by a small percentage of criminals. And if you're able to dedicate the resources to those individuals, you can drastically reduce crime numbers without actually increasing our incarceration numbers. Let me give you one example that just happened just not too far down the road. I prosecuted a gang called Blythe Street. Blythe Street was committing over a dozen murders not too far from here. What I did is I worked with our law enforcement partners. We worked together. We identified who the shot caller was, who are the shooters, and we indicted those individuals. We basically took down that gang. It was 300 people, but we indicted about 12 people. You're able to do that because we were smart. We figured out who are the drivers of crime. And once we figured that out, we were able to basically eradicate murder that was committed by Blythe Street just not too south of here. That's called smart, good reform, and it holds people accountable. And that's a real solution, not just a series of platitudes about how they're going to enforce the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is a serious one, important to this audience and to this organization. We're looking for a yes or no answer on this one. Judge Archuleta, we'll start with you. What is your policy on the death penalty? Yes or no?
The death penalty is the law of the state of California, and I will uphold that and file those cases in the most serious and egregious cases. If we have a mass shooting at a school where children, teachers, and administrators are murdered, if we have a police officer executed in the line of duty, those are the kinds of cases that I would seek to impose the death penalty on at a minimum. But yes, that is the law. I am the judge. I follow the law, and I will file those cases with the special circumstances as appropriate.
Yes or no, Mr. Chemerinsky, on the death penalty?
Do you want just a yes or, to be clear, yes or no question, or
That is what the group is requesting. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
no?
Yes.
Yes.
Hell no.
That's a yes for Bobcat.
Yes.
Yes, based on the certainty of guilt and the egregiousness of the crime. Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge?
No.
Yes.
No, because we don't have a death penalty in California. We don't even have a death chamber. So absolutely not, because it's a waste of resources.
Thank you for those answers. According to one of the candidates, crime is down. According to the LA Times, crime is down. But this just in, shoplifting is up 81% in Los Angeles County. Reported Shopliftings, 11,945 last year, up 5,000 from 2022. Overall retail crime, including shoplifting and felony smash and grabs, up 15% in 2023. Mr. Hochman, how would you address this retail crime crisis we're seeing here?
So George Gascon actually said to criminals, and he said this out loud, that if you steal under $950, particularly if you're a juvenile, I'm not going to prosecute you. For adults, in essence, we're not going to basically make this any part of our focus. And it ignited, as I said before, this spiral of lawlessness. Now, again, George Gascon promised us that if he let out violent and serious offenders and he didn't prosecute them to the full extent of the law, we would become more safe. He's actually done the first two things. He hasn't prosecuted them, he's released them, but we have not become more safe. In fact, when he said it back in 2020, it made no sense. People believed it back then because we were living through the George Floyd, defund the police, riots in the streets period. But in 2024, we now have a record of George Gascon's policies being played out for the last 3 years. And as you point out, when it comes to property crimes, shoplifting, smash and grabs, thefts under $950, the numbers are staggering compared to where they were. So we need to reverse that. And when I say go back to a policy, I'm not talking about the extreme blanket policies of mass incarceration that we had before. George Gascon was the other end of the pendulum swing of extreme decarceration policies. We need to do what I call the hard middle. And the reason it's hard, it actually requires experience to calibrate who are the true threats to our public safety and need to be behind bars, and quite candidly, the ones that aren't. Your first-time nonviolent offender may very well be at the crossroads of their life. They have to be held accountable, but community service or diversion program may be appropriate. So we have to look at the individual, case-by-case analysis of the crime, the defendant, and the impact on the victim to make this determination. If you have someone with 34 years of experience making the call versus George Gascon's 0 years, this call will be made right.
Let's go to Mr. Sudal on this one. We'll go to the left here now on the retail crime crisis here and your answers here for the United Chambers of Commerce in the Valley.
So there are some who believe that Prop 47 had no effect on retail theft. I think some of them are here today. One of them is not here today. That is George Gascon, who actually wrote Prop 47. I believe that I've actually worked on an initiative, and I believe that there has to be a change to Prop 47 as it applies to habitual offenders. In other words, if you committed a theft once, you should not be treated the same as a man who's committed 1,000 thefts, right? That seems to be common sense, and that is the type of common sense change that we need to the law in the state of California. The other thing that I would do is I would also be much more aggressive in terms of the filing decisions that we make as it applies to smash and grabs. For example, I would charge conspiracy to commit robbery, conspiracy to commit burglary, offenses like that when they are appropriate so that we actually get those people in custody and they are not constantly getting out of custody and committing more and more offenses because it's a misdemeanor offense. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ramirez.
Look, I think what we need is a district attorney who is going to respond to the many changes that happen over time with crime, whether we are addressing violent crime or gun crime or property theft, retail theft crime. The district attorney must be able to immediately address that issue. And we know that when retail theft started going up, and the mayor started the task force with all of our law enforcement partners, who was not there? The district attorney. What a travesty, what a failure in leadership that he was not there to discuss how we were going to approach that problem. Not only that, he failed to address it in his own policies in his office so that nothing changed. None of his policy changed to address retail theft. So the district attorney must be able to adjust, which the current district attorney has not done. In addition to Proposition 47 that needs to be amended to deal with the repeat offenders who are the main drivers of retail theft, is we have to work with the courts who have developed the zero bail policy that also does not account for repeat offenders. So the district attorney must be able to work not only with the legislature, but also with our courts, and I am ready to do that for you.
Thank you very much. Judge Mitchell.
Many of the individuals that I work with on Skid Row have spent a significant time in prison. And to every last one of them, they will say, Judge, I hated my time in prison. And they immediately follow up that representation by telling me, but I wouldn't have changed if I hadn't been sent to prison. We need to have a district attorney who is not afraid to send people who need to take a major timeout to state prison. And the people who organize retail thefts, who get the juveniles to actually do their dirty work, and they reap the benefits, those people need to go to prison. Like to also say, my experience on Skid Row indicates the people who are involved in so many of the thefts out there, who are breaking into your homes, those people are doing it to support a drug habit. You know it, and I know it. And unless we get a district attorney who understands addiction, understands how to move a person from addiction into long-term sobriety, our communities are not going to be safer. I understand it because I've been on Skid Row. I've worked with that population. Not only my work on Skid Row, but from what I've done on the bench. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Milton.
Think about how George Gascon and his collaborators, they characterized Prop 47 when they presented this to the voters of California. They called it safe communities or safe neighborhoods and schools. Is that what it has been? It's a major fraud. And now he uses the language of 47 to misapply the law. Think about this. The Penal Code in California says that if you enter into any establishment, residential or commercial, with the intent to steal or to commit any other felony, that's a burglary. And if you use force or fear, it's a robbery. These are felonies, or you could go to state prison. Think of the smash and grab. Are you going in there as a group? Can you establish intent to steal before entry? You're going in with a group with hammers and crowbars, and you now, in the presence of the proprietors, are smashing up their cabinets and they're stepping back. Those are robberies, and they ought to be charged as robberies, and they're not being charged as robberies because he doesn't want them to go to prison, and they should go to prison. This is what we're dealing with. I would urge Proposition 47 to be repealed based on the provision that disallows the prior convictions of repetitive theft offenses. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McKinley.
Thank you. We've got to stop tiptoeing around criminals. We've got to stop coddling them. If we want change, we got to be brave enough to stand up and say, look, theft is wrong. And everyone knows it. Every child knows it. So when we have an older juvenile or adult who commits theft, we've got to treat it like the wrong that it is. Now, I agree with Judge Mitchell. The thieving population falls into two general categories. There are those who are stealing to advance their drug habit. They're trying to get that medicine that they're not even trying to get high anymore because they're so addicted and their tolerance is so high. They're stealing to get drugs to keep from getting sick. Putting them in jail and warehousing them serves no purpose. So for those people who commit theft, we got to get them in a meaningful drug treatment program, and that's a felony-based drug treatment program. For those who are stealing for financial gain, oh no, that's a different population. They've got to go to jail on a first or second offense, or after that, they have to go to prison. And that's how we got to change the calculation that they're making. Right now, stealing pays. We've got to make it so it doesn't pay. And we'll see those numbers come down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bobcat.
This question strikes at the heart of why I'm running for DA. If you look at my website, bobcatforda.com, you can see my central plank is that I'm going to drop the hammer on all property-related offenses, including robbery. I'm throwing that in there too. But this is the one crime that's measurably up year after year that's important to Angelenos. Furthermore, we know that we can trace this back to past policies that Gascon has, for example, not prosecuting misdemeanors against juveniles. So often you can get these theft rings where you have multiple juveniles acting in concert with an adult. The adult will have the juveniles commit the theft, but then they get caught. There's no consequence because of Gascon's policies. So this is not a very difficult thing to reverse course on. But furthermore, this is also why my slogan is playtime is over, because we need to tell youngsters, we need to tell other individuals that might be inclined to commit theft that this is over and they better get it out of their system while Gascon is still in office, because if you vote for me, I'm going to drop the hammer on this until it gets under control. And furthermore, when we really look at this in the broad spectrum of it, theft is something that does have victims. So saying that victims or that crime is not up, that's not true. Crime is up if we look at property crimes also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As I said earlier, property crimes are up. The LA Times says so. And no one has contradicted me anything I said about violent crime being down. They've all had the chance to. And I already told you why property crime's gone up, because the fear mongers have misled the public. The media, if it leads, it bleeds. They want to show the same video of people smashing and grabbing. People didn't even think about doing this until they showed that same video over and over again in San Francisco. They're misleading people. The police are saying, we're not even going to arrest you because Gascon won't do anything. That's not true. I handle more smash and grab cases and theft cases than everyone on the stand combined. And they do take into account priors. And they're all felonies, because almost every time they're at least $950. And if some adult is having some kids do it, they can be charged with felony conspiracy. They're already felonies. So, I understand the multiple shoplifts. Yes, do we want to throw someone who steals a toothbrush 3 times in prison for 3 years? I don't think so. We want to get to the root of the problem, like the drug. I agree. If it's for to support a drug habit, we got to get them in a drug program. Or if it's because they need just to survive, we need to redistribute the wealth. I know you're going to all be in favor of that. And so what we got to do is get to the root of the problem. And we do take, if someone even commits a shoplifting, they always take into account the priors. The first time they'll probably get diversion. The second time they'll get probation. And the third time they'll get jail time. And people doesn't think that jail is serious. Has never spent a night in jail, because it's very serious, especially here in LA County. Thank you.
Mr. Hockman. Next one.
I think Nathan already did it.
Mr. Atami. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think one thing we haven't really addressed is statistics are also people. People are suffering. And so these are individuals who own businesses. These are individuals who are losing their businesses as a result of these thefts. These are individuals who the insurance carriers are not covering them anymore because it's theft upon theft upon theft. Now, I have 2 children. We teach our children not to steal. Why are we allowing our population to steal and saying that it's okay? It's not okay. We need to amend or repeal Prop 47. Prop 47 didn't make our schools safe, didn't make our neighborhoods safe, and it hasn't been a good proposition at all. We need to bring back petty theft with a prior. Individuals who keep committing crime upon crime upon crime and being released constantly is causing a major problem with everybody in our community. We need to deal with zero bail, meaning that we need to do bail deviation motions. We should not be allowing people to commit smash and grab burglaries, restaurant burglaries, organized retail theft, and getting released over and over again. We also need to work with our police officers. They're demoralized because they go out and arrest people, and in 2 hours, these individuals are released before they even complete their report. And that happens over and over again as well. And we need a DA also who realizes that We need to help individuals who are also addicted to drugs and alcohol. We should not be leaving them out in the community. It's inhumane. We should believe in recovery. George Gascon believes in open-air drug markets. He's said it before. That is not helping any of us. And I think that's also an issue that's causing theft as well. So we need to be empathetic to that as well to deal with our community. And so we handle those things and let everybody know you cannot steal in Los Angeles or you are going to get in trouble and be held accountable for that. And I think that will solve some of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chemerinsky.
Organized retail theft and shoplifting is a major problem. The statistics speak for themselves. And businesses are suffering as a result. The victims in those crimes are the businesses, the employers, the employees, and the public at large. I think we've all had experiences of going to pharmacies and recently and seeing all the number of things that are now locked down behind cabinets. And that's simply not how we should be living. Just yesterday, I met with a group of business owners who each own small businesses, and I heard from them about how they're suffering, about the increased costs, about the difficulty getting insurance. And as your district attorney, I'd make it a major priority to work with small businesses, to protect our quality of life, to have guidance and guidelines to make sure that there are real consequences for individuals who steal. There's also a major problem with smash and grab robberies that are really affecting our sense of safety. As a federal prosecutor, I led the federal robbery program for 7 years, really specialized in smash and grab robbery cases and armed robbery cases. I understand that those cases have real victims. Our district attorney left on the table millions of dollars when he failed to apply for additional funding that was made available for the state of California to specifically go after organized retail theft and smash and grab robberies. That's unacceptable. As your district attorney, I'll make smash and grab robberies a top priority.
Thank you, sir. Judge?
Well, I guess I'm one of those proud fearmongers because when I see that shoplifting is up 81%, that's only the crime that has been reported. Think about all of us who've had car break-ins, catalytic converters stolen, small robberies and burglaries that we have not even bothered to report. What about Rite Aid and CVS and my local bakery that's owned by an Armenian family, my local donut shop owned by Chinese immigrants, and my dry cleaners who are constantly getting broken into? There is a disproportionate impact on these theft offenses for our small businesses, many of whom are immigrant owned, and these people work very hard to put food on the table, a roof over their head, and shoes on their kids' feet. Part of the stealing that's going on is not substance related. The gangs are coming from South America and burglarizing many of the homes in your community, stealing all kinds of treasures, cash, guns, documents. It has nothing to do with substance abuse. They know they can come to LA and not be held accountable. George Gascon turned down $2 million of free money from the governor because they didn't want to be part of the implementation of the organized retail theft. Retail thefts are not thefts. These are felonious, serious, violent offenses. We need to have LAPD and the sheriffs arrest. We need to impose bail, and we need to hold people in custody for some period of time to stop the revolving door of these types of thefts that are impacting our businesses, our homes, and our community.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me give the other judges a chance to respond to what Mr. Kaplowitz said. Judge Milton, what really is going on here with these smash and grab cases when they do come before you, sir?
Sorry, Mr. Miltek, I did not hear the beginning of that question. Sorry.
What's your response to what Mr. Kaplowitz said, saying that he handles more smash and grab cases than anyone here? Give us the bottom line when you see these cases coming through your courtroom. Give us the real on what's happening.
Well, let's be clear. I served 24 years as judge of Superior Court, but I left that position in 2014 before Prop 47, and I'm now a private judge handling arbitrations and mediations and those types of things. And so I cannot be that specific with respect to my leaving of the bench, but I can say from what the policy of Mr. Gascon that it's being misused, and he's used Prop 47 as a reason to circumvent the law. These smash and grabs are not misdemeanors. They are felonies. When you use force or fear on someone in the taking of their property, Penal Code section, I think it's still 211, it's a robbery and it's a felony and it should be charged as a felony. And if it's not, if there's no force and fear used, it's at the very least a burglary. And if the amount is less than $950, you might be able to get it down to what the Penal Code now calls a shoplift.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're trying to get to the truth and enlightenment here. Judge Mitchell, any other comment on this issue here? And
The amazing thing with all the prevalence of smash and grabs, and again, as I have indicated, I'm the only person up here who is a felony trial court judge. I have not seen a single smash and grab case come into my courtroom. And that tells you something. They are not being filed. They are not being pursued. Does that answer your question?
thank you, sir. Mr. Kaplowitz, any other comment about what you're seeing out there? We're trying to get to the truth here, sir. Go ahead.
Well, let's look at the statistics. Look, maybe your courtroom, I don't know what cases you do. I had one case before you. It wasn't a smash and grab, that's true. But they are filed. I have them all the time. Just ask anyone who's willing to tell you the truth. Any deputy district attorney can tell you that they're filed. And if they say they're not, then they're just not telling the truth. And bail, everyone's saying, oh, we got to raise bail. You know, these people are presumed innocent. You know, any one of you could just be arrested and falsely accused of committing a crime and then held in jail. And they just want to keep you in jail. And it's a myth that Gascon does not seek bail. I've done more bail hearings probably since Gascon's been in office than everyone here combined. And the DA's office does seek bail. They seek high bail often. So please don't tell me. Ask me what's really going on, because I'm actually in the courtrooms. These people are supervisors. They don't see what's really going on.
Judge Archuleta, what do you see?
What do I see? I see the truth.
Let's
When
hear
I'm
it.
in dependency court, before I step down on this unpaid leave, I have to tell you what is going on in our community is breaking down. When I was removing 10 to 15 babies a week at birth from their mothers because of the methamphetamine and fentanyl addiction that's wreaking havoc on our city, our families, our county, and our community. That's what I see. A lot of that addiction is fueled by theft, but the reality is the breakdown of our society starts in my court every single day. When I have children born drug addicted, to mothers that are drug addicted, to people that are selling visibly pregnant women fentanyl and methamphetamine. So when she goes into that hospital and brings new life into this world, this child is in our system from the cradle to the grave. I know it takes a while to get to felony court. I start at the beginning of life for the most vulnerable children and families in our community, the foster care system. Half of the kids in foster care end up homeless. The other half end up dead or in jail. So that's what I see every single day. We have a lot of problems to solve, and it starts in my court, in the dependency court, with these children when they are born in these very dysfunctional, mentally ill, substance addicted families. And that is what needs, that perspective is not held by any of the other candidates in this race. That's what I see.
Let's get to the truth. Mr. Siddall.
Thank you. So Dan, let me just give you some real facts, okay? Since 2019, violent crime and theft crimes have gone up in the state of California. So for the past 5 years, you have to look at a trend. You can't just look at 1 year like what you're doing. You have to look at the overall trend. But here's what's even more disturbing. The rest of the country diverged from California. In other words, as the rest of the country became safer, as the rest of the country actually had less thefts, California went up in the past 5 years. That's a problem with California. That's a problem with our county, and we can do better. and I will do better. And that's my pledge to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another important question here. And I should note that Emma Rivas is in the audience. She was the one who confronted George Gascon at the forum in the Waldorf in Beverly Hills last week. She said, my child was killed by a gang member, and you had more sympathy for that gang member than my child who was killed in front of my home. She said during the discussion last week. What about the issue of enhancements, eliminating enhancements in some prosecutions, especially as it relates to gang crimes? And we just saw that horrific crime spree over the weekend, as was mentioned. Mr. Chemerinsky on that one.
Thank you. I would not have any categorical rules when it comes to enhancements. For example, I'd be vigorous in prosecuting gun crimes and using gun enhancements. I'd be vigorous in prosecuting hate crimes and using hate crime enhancements. As to other enhancements, I'll take them on a case-by-case basis. I wouldn't have any categorical rules. I think the facts as they come to me would determine, and as they come to the office, would determine what's just and what's right. I think that the reality would be that I'd be more curtailed in my use of hate crime and my use of gang enhancement than my use of gun enhancements. That's just the reality. I'd be vigorous in using gun enhancements, less vigorous in using gang enhancements. What I would have is a series of guidance and guidelines, much like what we have on the federal side in terms of what should be charged at a given time and when. I think guidance and guidelines are what justice requires, that you look at the facts, you ensure consistency, and you make sure the just result occurs. I'd provide such guidance and guidelines and make sure it's applied in a consistent way.
Mr. Otami, on this one, on the enhancements, and how many, if any, would you reverse, keep in place, or add to when you take office, sir?
So I think first off, it needs to be stated that Emma's case was filed way before George Gascon became DA under Jackie Lacey, and she filed the appropriate charges based upon the evidence and the law. George Gascon had somebody call her after he took office and said, we're going to remove these allegations, not because the evidence wasn't there, just because he didn't believe in it. And that is just cruel. The people of the state of California have voted and passed these enhancements. We've decided as a community, if you use a gun to murder somebody, you should be punished more harshly. If you murder somebody, it's in a hate crime, you should be punished more harshly. If you take a young baby and break their rib or fracture the bone, you should be punished more harshly. If you intentionally torture and murder a child, you should be punished more harshly. If you assassinate a police officer, you should be punished more harshly. We passed all those laws. The DA's job is to follow the law, follow the will of the people, and you do that fairly and justly. George Gascon has a blanket policy where he decided not to use it on anything. That is wrong. That is not fair or just. And as a result, Emma and other victims felt like they didn't get justice and nobody was out there fighting for them. The DA's job is to enforce the law, make sure the public is safe, and fight for justice for all victims, all survivors, and for all surviving family members.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hochman, you were there last week and are here tonight, sir. Go right ahead.
The state legislature has given the DA certain tools to use. And the reason for the tools and these enhancements and these additional punishments is not just to punish the person involved, but to deter the next person who's thinking of committing that crime. That if they do that crime and they're part of a gang or they use a gun, that there will be these additional punishments to stop them from committing those crimes in the first place. If I go ahead and fill the prisons with people, that is the failure of a DA's office. If I deter criminals because I will enforce a consistent and fair law and they don't commit the crimes in the first place and we don't have the victims in the first place, that is a success of a DA's office, like the DA's office I will lead. Let me give you another real-life example of George Gascon's failure to charge enhancements that actually led directly to a death. I take you to the case of two officers, El Monte police officers, Paredes and Santana, who responded to a domestic disturbance crime going on in a hotel room. What happened is a man named Justin Flores was there, beating up his girlfriend, had a gun on PCP. The officers showed up and he shot them dead, then shot himself. Now, how does that deal with George Gascon's policies? Because Justin Flores, years before, had committed. George Gascon wants me to stop saying this, so he sent the alarm out, but we'll continue. Well, let me finish this if I might. So what happened is George Gascon's no-strike policies denied the right for the deputy district attorney that day to file the strike enhancement of the prior violent and serious crime. What that meant is when this Justin Flores committed this next crime, instead of going to jail for 3 years, which would have happened had the strike been filed, because of Gascon's policies not to file the strike, he got time served and he got probation. So he ended up in the hotel room that night to shoot these 2 officers dead. You will not just hear from the people on this stage, you will hear from the mothers of these El Monte police officers who have screamed at George Gascon and said, "You have killed our sons." That is unacceptable. I will go back to following the law, enforcing the law, and making sure that these situations never happen again.
Thank you, sir. Kaplowitz.
Yes, thank you. It's Kapelovitz. It rhymes with
Kaplowitz.
Vote for him just for the hell of it. Kapelovitz. All right. Emma, I want to let you know that the person who's convicted of killing your son, even without an enhancement, will get 25 years to life, maybe more, and they're probably never going to get out of prison. It's not like the parole board. They're not these bleeding heart liberals. People, if they get a life sentence, they stay often until maybe they're too old to even take care of themselves, and they save some money and kick them out. So it's very likely they're going to spend their life in prison with or without the enhancement. Now, the gang enhancements, the one thing that Gascon actually has stuck to, not alleging it, is because gang enhancements, again, get ready, are inherently racist. 99% of gang enhancements in LA County are alleged against Black and Latinos. And if you think it's that's because they're the ones who do it, it's not true, because what happens is was exactly. So yes, exactly. So if a white person commits let's say a smash and grab, they'll be charged with a smash and grab. Now, if a Black person commits a smash and grab, even though it's probably for their own benefit, all of a sudden it's for the benefit of a gang, and then their sentence can be increased insanely. I had one case. My guy was totally innocent. This kid who spent his whole life staying out of gangs. His mom kept him out of gangs, but he lived in a gang-infested neighborhood, and he happened to be riding his bike by someone who was doing some gang graffiti. He was charged with being a lookout, which is totally ridiculous. We would have won at trial no matter what, but he's facing 9 years in prison. Thank God Gascon came in and got rid of that gang enhancement. They said they knocked it down to a misdemeanor because without the gang enhancement, it's just a misdemeanor, and he got diversion, and this kid who's totally innocent did not face 9 years in prison and get coerced to take some plea. Thank you.
Okay. Bobcat.
Frank, I give the people what they want. And when justice requires it, enhancements, all of them are back on the table. As a former hardcore gang deputy of almost 6 years, I know what it means to charge the gang enhancement. It's an important tool that law enforcement needs. But most importantly is I think what emboldens criminals is when you have blanket policies like Gascon's been doing, where you just say we're not going to use any of these enhancements or very sparingly use them. It sends the wrong message. And this goes all the way back to who he is. Gascon, if many of you know, is actually a cop by training, more of an administrative type of cop. Yet he's pretending to be a DA, but he acts like a defense attorney. And if that sounds confusing, it's because it is. And when you send confusing messages from the top law enforcement position in LA County, you're going to get criminals that are emboldened on the street. And I'm not just an old school, throw the book at them, hard on crime candidate. I heard the public in 2020. They want something different from us. And I'm probably the only candidate up there that's presented a comprehensive plan to his elected that's open for general and special funding to address that. But the point is that we need to change the tone, and we need to send a clear message to those that might be inclined to do crime that, hey, it's not worth it. Playtime is over. Thank you.
John McKinney.
anyone who takes a position that gang enhancements shouldn't be charged has never lived in a gang-infested neighborhood. Gangs pose a special problem in any community, but especially here in Los Angeles, where we are the gang capital of the world. I, like some of my colleagues from the DA's office, had worked for 6 years in our hardcore gang division when we had a hardcore gang division. And let me tell you, when we walked in the courtroom, we were badass. We were. When we walked in the courtroom, people took notice because they knew that we were there to get the job done. And private attorneys, public defenders, judges all knew who the hardcore gang attorneys were. We prosecute those crimes because gangs control neighborhoods. They promote fear in those neighborhoods. They have such a grip on those neighborhoods that even victims are afraid to report their own victimization. Witnesses come to court, swear to tell the truth, and then lie under oath because they're concerned about what will happen to them when they walk out of the courtroom. And as prosecutors, we understand it because we know that that threat is real. Enhancements are important in the law, not so much because they increase punishment, but they actually define the nature of the crime. In California, we don't have a crime called armed robbery in our penal code. We have robbery and we have a gun enhancement. And the only way to charge someone with armed robbery is to put the two together. This is something I've been trying to explain to Mr. Gascon for 3 years. Apparently, he just doesn't get it. So we have to have these enhancements. The nature of our law is constructed in a way that anticipates the use of these enhancements. And if we don't use them, we're not telling the truth about the crime that was committed.
Thank you very much. Judge Milton.
Thank you. I'd like to use 15 seconds of my time to rebut something that Judge Archuleta said. She said she's the only one that has the experience of removing the addicted babies in children's court. I, too, served in children's court, and I removed several children where the mother dropped so much junk on that baby during the gestation period. The baby was born addicted, leaving that child with neurological and lifetime medical issues. I took those very serious, and I wouldn't hesitate to do that again. Now, let's talk about gang enhancements. That's a serious subject matter. That's the way to relieve the most dangerous people from the streets. And I'm going to be transparent with you. If you go on my website, you'll see it. I sentenced a person to 934 years. Now, why did I do that? What would cause you to think, this man, is he extreme? I'm not extreme. I follow the law. The enhancements dictated. As a matter of fact, the district attorney brought that case to me and demanded 934 years in prison for the things that the individual did to babies with prior convictions for doing the same thing to babies. I have no compulsion, no reservation about charging and sentencing the appropriate enhancements if they can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt and they're warranted, and to protect the public from that type of behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Mitchell.
In my opening remarks, I think I made it clear to everyone where I stand with respect to gang enhancements. Obviously, over the last hour, I have not equivocated on that posture. But I want people tonight to understand there's a record that I have established over the last 18 and a half years. As a sitting felony trial court judge, almost every day I receive petitions from inmates in state prison asking me to reduce their sentence. In 18 and a half years, I've done it once. And I want you to understand, you may say one is too many, but it is also an indication that Craig Mitchell carefully considers everything that comes across his desk. And there was one individual who was charged with a gang enhancement. And these are the facts. And I sentenced him to 72 years to life. He is being pursued, along with 2 other gang members, by 3 sheriff's deputies. Cars stop. The 3 gang members get out of the car. The individual who I reduced his sentence, he had a gun in his hand. He threw it to the curb. He never pulled the trigger. He never intended to hurt anybody. That was the one instance where I said 72 years to life for a young kid who throws the gun, points the gun at nobody. That is excessive. And that's the fairness that I would bring to the table. Every case that is filed in the district attorney's office, but I want you to understand, I'm the one, day after day after day, your petition to reduce your sentence is respectfully denied.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ramirez?
I think the important thing that we have to understand and take away from this is that as district attorneys, we have the absolute duty to follow the law and expose the truth of the matter to the courts. And that is the importance of the enhancements. Not only that, Mr. Kapelovitz said that, oh, he's going to serve a life sentence. Well, not anymore. That is not guaranteed anymore, because we have youthful offender parole, we have elder parole. So somewhere in the middle, there's a few people that don't get early parole, but otherwise they are being paroled. And not only that, when you have a district attorney who does not file enhancements or let us file enhancements and does not let us, has us resentencing these individuals, a life sentence is no longer guaranteed. And I will tell you one other thing that you have to know that is happening right now is that Mr. Gascon issued these blanket policies that does not allow us to do our job properly, does not allow us to seek the truth. However, he is not a true reformer in that sense, because he has gone back on his own policies, but he only does it, we call it the media exception. When the media has suddenly put the attention on him because he has not filed an enhancement on a case, then suddenly he files an enhancement. There were gun allegations that are life crimes that he would not let us file. It was a blanket policy, and still, the way it is written, it is a blanket policy. However, he's making exceptions on the down low for cases, for example, where a police officer is killed, which we should be able to make those exceptions. But he doesn't do it for cases like Emma's here, for just a regular person that is not a law enforcement officer. So he is being inconsistent and he's lying to the public about these blanket policies. Our prosecutors need the ability and the discretion to file laws and enhancements as they see fit based on the evidence in the case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Siddall?
There's 2 things I think that we should point out. First of all, I want to talk about the difference between words and deeds. So when George Gascon implemented his policies about enhancements, I got together with other people in my union and we filed a lawsuit against him. And we actually got an injunction against him. In other words, we forced him not to dismiss the enhancements that were in existence at that time. That's deed over word. In fact, that lawsuit went even further. He appealed it to the Court of Appeals, and we won that court case as well. So right now in the district attorney's office, because of the actions that I took along with other colleagues of mine, we were able to basically stop George Gascon in his tracks on a lot of different cases. The other thing to consider is this. Maria is 100% right. He is starting to go back. And I think the reason why he's starting to go back is because we keep winning and humiliating him in the public as to these cases. Because Emma's case is so grotesque in terms of his policies, it exposes the absurdity of these policies that he's been backtracking. But here's what the difference is. When there was a murder in Beverly Hills and 3 people were murdered, the LA DA's office under George Gascon filed a special circumstance murder. In other words, a murder charge so that the person would never be allowed to seek parole because they committed 3 murders. There was a case in Compton, committed 6 murders, no special circumstance. You know why? Because there was no cameras, because there was no media attention, because it was a case that was committed in the ghetto and no one cares. We in the district attorney's office serve every part of this community. Whether you are rich or poor, black or white, Asian or Latina, we serve every part of this community. And we will serve every part of this community under my administration. There will be no media exception. There will only be justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siddall. And you mentioned earlier that you would set up a special office within the DA's office to deal with the homeless issue, which of course is a very, very big issue. Judge?
I didn't get to answer that last question.
Oh, Judge, I'm sorry, you're right.
Chemerinsky, I'm sorry.
On the enhancements, Your Honor, I apologize.
Yes,
Please
sorry,
go right
I'll
ahead.
brief. Sorry.
You're right. Go right ahead.
Order in the court.
Thank you.
Many of you in this room are old enough to remember the slogan, use a gun, go to jail, right? We remember that? Use a gun, go to jail. Many hands. If you're a gang member committing a crime, you are going to have that enhancement filed. Sadly, most of the gang activity in LA County, I was actually in the hardcore gang unit in 1992, the height of the murder epidemic here in LA. Most of the victims of that gang violence are in the communities of color. I once prosecuted an 11-year-old. 11. Is that like a 5th grader? An 11-year-old for committing a gang murder. So I am a proponent of gun enhancements when appropriate and gang enhancements because we're not going to criminalize people for stabbing.